Hi, this is Rachel, and I wanted to do a quick video on the memorial. I just went to the memorial tonight, and I have some reactions to it, some questions, and I just wanted to bring those forward. The memorial, or the Lord's evening meal, is what most Christians call communion, except that Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate this by only taking it once a year and not really taking it because they pass it around, and really nobody partakes it. I didn't see anybody partake it tonight. So they started by reading in Luke 22, and this is very basic about how Jesus instituted the communion, but they left off a verse, the verse at the end. But the hand of him who is going to betray me is with mine on the table. They had just said before this that 11 faithful disciples were there when Jesus instituted the Lord's evening meal. But clearly, the hand of him who was going to betray me, that is Judas, was with Jesus when he gave them the communion, when he instituted the new covenant with his body and blood, with the bread and the wine. Judas was actually there, and he partook. And they started talking about Adam, how God's purpose was for Adam to live on earth. And just my question about this would be, is the location the most important aspect of Adam's life, in terms of what he lost after the fall? Or was it actually the communion with God and the dwelling with him? You read in Genesis 3:8 that God walked in the garden with Adam. This didn't happen after he was evicted from Eden. So I think they're just putting too much emphasis on the location, setting people up for what was going to come later in the service. So then they quote John 3:16, and in their Bible, the New World Translation, they have that exercising faith in Jesus is what brings everlasting life. Other versions all say just believe. So I wonder, why would they say exercising faith? Then they quote James 2:24 that you're justified by works. But they don't quote Romans 3:28. You can read that all the way through to the end of the chapter and into Romans 4 verse 5, which says that we're justified by faith, that Abraham was justified, righteousness was credited to him before he did anything, before there was circumcision, before he did any of the things that we know about Abraham, someone of great faith, that he was considered righteous before God. So at the end, they had some suggestions for how you might exercise your faith: going to additional meetings, going to field service, reading the Watchtower, going to a special talk, and then they quote their version of John 17:3, which is taking in knowledge. So you can see this is all very works-based. So then they set it up to talk about the earthly versus heavenly hope. And they proudly announced that only one out of 1,632 attendees at last year's memorial partook of the emblems. So for every 1,632 people attending the memorial, only one of those would have taken the wine and the bread. Everybody else would have just passed it on. And then they mentioned how the 144,000 started coming into the congregation in 33 CE. And that to me seems kind of funny, coming into the congregation. It seems that, to me, the most important thing about being in the New Covenant is having that relationship with God, not coming into a congregation or an organization or a group. And then the speaker said that our thoughts are here on earth. I don't know, that just sounded kind of funny to me. But then when they were about to pass the bread, the speaker made a little bit of a mistake. I think they said something true, but a little bit unintentional. He said, partaking means that he or she believes and accepts Christ's sacrifice. Then after an uncomfortable pause, he added, oh, we too believe, but we don't partake. This to me is very telling, because I think it's true. Partaking means that you believe and accept Christ's sacrifice. So if you don't partake, what does that say about you? Then another theme they kept trying to put forward was that we, the great crowd, benefit from the kingdom arrangement. We receive blessing from the 144,000. The same provision for the 144,000 will help us. And I just don't see what benefit are they talking about. Are they talking about salvation? How can you benefit from a group of people you don't even have any contact with, seeing as how only one out of 1,632 people seem to be of this 144,000? What is the chance that you'll even know one of those people? Much less benefit from them, especially benefit from them in any spiritual sense. Another thing that kept being mentioned was we closely follow the pattern set by Jesus in his last evening meal. But in the last evening meal, everybody partook, even Judas. 1 Corinthians 11:25 through 26, this cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. So it clearly says that eating and drinking are part of this Lord's evening meal, not just passing it by. So if you are a Jehovah's Witness, I'd hope you can ask yourself, the speaker mentioned, the 144,000 belong to Jesus and bear his name. But who do you belong to? The speaker also indicated that Jesus mediates only for the 144,000. But who is your mediator? The speaker also mentioned how Romans 8:16 through 17 only applies to the 144,000. But then, doesn't Romans 8:9 through 11 apply to you then? And this is the biggest question, really. What scriptures say that the great crowd receives benefits? And what benefits? Salvation? From associating with the 144,000. How can being associated with a group of people you've probably never met provide any blessing of salvation? Isn't that God's job? And as always, I just ask that you leave your comments, and I hope to hear from you.